Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the DC Wrap interview series. I'm Pat Pobletti with WisPolitics.com, and joining me today is U.S. Senator Ron Johnson. Senator, how are you?
Great, staying healthy. How about yourself?
Doing well, and thanks for asking, of course. Now, we're continuing to see protests across the country after the death of George Floyd in police custody, and one of the legislative solutions being kicked around in Washington right now involves refashioning the laws that govern police. Now, Senator, it's been reported that several of your GOP colleagues in the Senate, Tim Scott, John Cornyn, Mitt Romney, are working on legislation to that effect. Now, are you privy to any of the details of that bill yet? And what do you support in terms of re-examining policing?
Well, we were briefed by Senator Scott and others at yesterday's Republican lunch. And it's not unusual that the leader will appoint a task force to craft something. You can't have literally 53 people chiming in on everything. So we were briefed yesterday. I think we are certainly all concerned about the events, certainly with George Floyd is reprehensible. I think America uniformly was shocked by that and wants to see justice done. And the wheels of justice do turn slowly. I made the statement, I wish they'd turn a little bit quicker in this case. But I think there's also recognition that there are some real reforms that need to be enacted. Now, the question is at what level? Policing authority is by and large a state and local constitutional responsibility, quite honestly. So you do need to carefully consider what should the federal government's role be in this process. But what I heard yesterday is pretty thoughtful, and we'll see what the task force really comes up with. But I think there hopefully will be some broad bipartisan support on things the federal government can do within its proper constitutional framework to encourage a better, less discriminatory policing powers.
Now, to shift gears slightly towards the economic recovery in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, last week you pushed for clarification to be added to a Paycheck Protection Program bill that an extension through the end of the year applied to spending and not to the application deadline. So what was the impetus behind that move? Is it safe to say that you think it's time for the federal government to wind down its efforts to stimulate the economy?
No, not at all. I think it's a recognition that when we passed something, we passed 4 different phases of this, $2.9 trillion, and just put that in perspective, that's literally about 5 months worth of 30% total replacement cost for our economy. It's a massive amount of money, which we all felt we needed to do. We needed to give financial support to workers, to businesses, so they could hopefully survive and reopen and rehire. And we also needed to provide liquidity to the market. So passing something that massive, that fast, we knew it was going to be far from perfect. PPP was part of that program. The goal was trying to keep employees connected to their employer for full benefits. And to a certain extent, it worked. But it was done very quickly, and one of the downsides of that quick action is an awful lot of PPP funds went to businesses that really are doing quite well, that really didn't need it. I'm literally not blaming those businesses for taking it. The standard was so low, basically a certification that because of economic uncertainty, the business thought they really needed these PPP loans for the ongoing operation of their business. In such uncertain times, I think anybody could have really checked that with integrity. But moving forward, what I didn't want to see is just the PPP program authorized, plussed up again in some fraction of $1 trillion without the kind of controls to prevent businesses that really, when all said and done, are doing quite well and should not have access to further money, because we don't have an unlimited checking account. This is a grand experiment, basically printing almost $2.9 trillion. We do need to make sure that what we do spend goes to those businesses, those individuals that truly need it, and we don't misspend money at all.
Now, to jump around one more time here, the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, which obviously you chair, voted along party lines to approve a subpoena of a consulting firm that lobbied on behalf of Burisma Holdings, a Ukrainian natural gas company that former Vice President Joe Biden's son Hunter sat on the board of. So what's the timeline for getting Blue Star strategies before your committee? And what do you hope to accomplish with this probe?
Well, the deadline for the material was literally last night. Prior to that vote, we were getting letters that said they'd been fully cooperative, and here's a production, a few pages. Literally, we've gotten a couple thousand pages now, so they've not been cooperative. I'm not sure that they're even being fully cooperative at this point in time. My counsel prior to yesterday only had one conversation with their counsel. He's a former Department of Justice employee. He's a prosecutor. He's used to dealing with individuals who have been subpoenaed. This is not how a cooperative person who's been subpoenaed operates. So we'll see what information we get from them. But the deadline was last night. I think they're still producing documents, maybe a privilege log. Today it'll be interesting to see what kind of privilege they claim over some of these documents that we've subpoenaed.
Now, to round out here, Senator, I always leave a little bit of time at the end for the person I'm speaking with to kind of touch on anything that we didn't get to in the interview. So is there anything you worked on that you particularly want to highlight?
Well, kind of going back to what we need to do to open up our economy, I've always felt that these generalized shutdown orders was really not the way we should have approached this. Rather than shutting down their economy and then listing the businesses that we deemed were essential, what we should have done is, basically made the assumption that every business, every organization is essential to somebody, but that there are literally some non-essential businesses that posed a real significant risk to out-of-control spread. Recognizing the goal to these shutdowns was to flatten the curve so we wouldn't overwhelm our hospital systems. By and large, we haven't. What we've done instead is greatly underwhelmed them to the point where they've lost all kinds of revenue. Elective procedures for one person could be somebody's life-saving treatment or life-saving diagnostics. So we need to recognize that moving forward, we need to keep as much of our economy open as possible, as safely as possible. And we are going to need some programs. And again, PPP was done quickly, and it was really meant as a very short-term bridge. But we've seen individuals, sole proprietorships, their life savings wiped out, that still could be a viable business. So we need to have some kind of program that could potentially restore capital. I'm working with Secretary Mnuchin, even as we speak, some other colleagues of coming up with a different alternative to PPP to provide that kind of restoration of capital for businesses that can be viable, that can rehire, that can help restore economic prosperity and growth of this nation.
Senator Ron Johnson, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Have a great day and stay healthy.
Thank you. You as well.